One of the crown jewels of the University of Michigan. This is the Michigan Marching Band.
Michigan's twirlers, Cassie Burke, Stacy Gearbaugh, Christy Hara, and Nathan Magyar. And now in his first season as Michigan's man up front, from Clinton Township, drum major Jeffrey McMahon. The Victor. Salute the Eagles of Eastern Michigan.
And now from the big house, here is Michigan. It is a gorgeous afternoon for football. Crisp, cool morning. We'll turn over to sunny skies before we're done. 58 degrees at kick, and another 100,000 plus packed the big house to see Michigan and Eastern Michigan. Just a freshman, Matt Weil, will get us going today. He is a fifth-generation Wolverine and back to return. Corey Welch for Eastern Michigan. This is Caleb Goodwin, and he takes it to the 20. Has a step, flag on the play, out toward the 26-yard line. 22-yard return if it stands. And our first flag of the day, our referee is Mike Conlon.
Block in the back. Number 35 from the receiving team. 10-yard penalty, first down.
Not the direction Eastern Michigan wanted to go to start this game, and Ron English not happy about it. He's back in the big house again. He brought his team in 2 years ago in his first season at the helm at Eastern. His quarterback is a very talented runner, Alex Gillette, a junior from Green Springs, Ohio. And this Eastern Michigan team, Rack, comes into this game leading the nation with 3 runners who average better than 7 yards a carry. They're going to go big on the line up front and out of the I formation. Play action. Gillette goes deep. First play. And incomplete. Aiming for Donald Scott. And Eastern Michigan not wasting any time trying to go deep.
Well, we talked about Eastern Michigan being a dangerous running team, throwing a wrinkle already, going up to the the pass game, taking a shot down the football field. But good defense right there by Troy Woolfolk, staying with the receiver step by step down the field.
They also started off with big Orlando McCord in as a tight end. He's typically a tackle. It's a little bit more conventional here on 2nd and 10 for Eastern Michigan, starting Javonte Green at running back, and they will keep it on the ground to Green out of a slot position, and he takes it for a 13-yard gain. 1st and 10 Eastern Michigan. Jordan Kovacs and Troy Woolfolk in on the tackle for Michigan.
Well, Ken Karcher told us that they are a very multiple offense, and we're getting a chance to see that early on, bringing players out of different positions in the running game, trying to keep that Michigan defense on their heels.
Eastern Michigan has dominated its first 2 opponents in rushing yardage, but 2 FCS opponents. And out of the eye once again, this is Green, and Green takes it forward for Eastern Michigan, and with a little extra push will set up 2nd and medium after a gain of 6, 2nd and 4 coming. Green against Alabama State last week had 146 yards on 22 carries. He has shared time this season with Dominique Shearer. Shearer, however, is not expected to play in this game. He's been lost to a leg injury that he suffered in the 3rd quarter against Alabama State last Saturday.
And that's why we talked about Alex Gillette having to step up. They've had such a potent rushing attack, but not having a guy that's rushed for over 100 yards in the first 2 games. Some other people are obviously going to have to pick up the slack.
2nd and 4 for the junior quarterback Gillette. And on the ground once again, good cutback by Green. He picks up a couple, and that will leave 3rd and 2. Jabril Black, a sophomore from Cincinnati, in on the stop.
Anybody that watched the game last week knows that Michigan brings a lot of pressure from a lot of different positions. You got a chance to see Thomas Gordon, number 30, the safety, start coming into the box. I expect this Michigan defense to do that a lot this afternoon, trying to slow down that running game.
Their head coach, Brady Hoke, has a defensive background, and Greg Madison is back in Ann Arbor. Flea flicker on 3rd and short. Gillette pressured. He will scramble for the 1st down and more, and Gillette slides past midfield for an Eastern Michigan 1st down. A pickup of 22 for the Eagles.
Again, throwing some wrinkles already with the flea flicker. J.T. Floyd, the corner, does a nice job of recovering to get back to the receiver along with that pressure up front. But again, Alex Gillette showing what he's able to do with the football in his hands, and a good decision by sliding at the end so he doesn't take a hit.
Eastern Michigan last week had 397 yards against Alabama State, and this is the running back Green who takes it, lost a football, put it on the turf, and Michigan thinks they have it. Jabril Black punched it out, and it's Gordon who comes up with it.
A little bit of a surprise to Michigan fans that they're in the positive on the turnover margin this year, and this is part of the reason why their defense is making opportune plays, being able to knock that ball out. Give a lot of credit to Jabril Black. You'll see number 55 right here. He's able to get that left hand on the ball. You've got to do a better job of Javonte Green securing that football. Anytime you're coming into this type of environment, you've got to limit mistakes. We're already seeing the first one by Eastern Michigan.
Michigan had 5 takeaways against Notre Dame last Saturday night under the lights. Now Denard Robinson will go to work out of the I formation, and a fullback reintroduced to the Michigan offense, leading the way for Fitzgerald Toussaint, and he rattles off a nice gain on 1st down before Blake Poole brings him down.
Fitzgerald Toussaint, of course, did not play in the game last week with a shoulder injury. They're glad to have him back on the lineup, and it's nice to see Al Borges going with the power game to start. We talked about it a little bit ago. One of the things I really think Michigan has to do this afternoon is establish the run game by the running backs. We're already seeing that through the first play.
Denard carried the load in the running game last week for Michigan, and here he is on a quarterback lead to the far side, and he takes it on 2nd and 2 for a Michigan 1st down. Justin Cudworth, junior college transfer, brings him down for the stop.
And when you see a play like that, a lot of people will say that they're going back to a spread concept, but that's really still a pro-style concept. It's a tailback lead Usually when you're in a spread, you're running that read option, but right there, all they're doing is taking the tailback, leading him up through the hole, and it's a designed quarterback run.
Vincent Smith is now in the game at tailback for Michigan as Denard Robinson goes under center on first down. Play action, trying to set up the screen, nothing there. Denard will scramble, he will tuck it, take it to midfield and then some. Here goes Shoelace inside the 40 on a broken play. Robinson took it himself. Al Borges told us yesterday we'd like to call 16 running plays, and then Denard's going to take a few himself, and there's an example, a 14-yard pickup.
That's why you don't have to design too many running plays, because when things break down, he's got the improvisation to make things happen. And there's just not a whole lot you can coach on defense. You got to be technically sound. You got to cover up your gaps. But when you get a guy like number 16 in the open field, he's going to make people miss.
Toussaint back in the game in the backfield for Michigan. Robinson last week against Notre Dame had 16 carries for over 100 yards on the ground. Out of the shotgun, and here is Toussaint. Straight ahead run, and he's able to pick up 4. Brad Orman, senior from Adrian, Michigan, brings him down. It's an Eastern Michigan team which put a lot of pressure on Alabama State last week. 8 sacks and 14 quarterback hurries. They won't have the opportunity and probably won't choose to try and get after the quarterback and blitz much today.
You've got to be so careful when you're bringing pressure against an offense like Michigan, obviously, because number 16, if one of those guys gets slightly out of his gap, that's how you get gashed by the quarterback.
2nd and 6. And here's another designed quarterback run on the lead straight up the middle. And Brandon Slater able to bring down Denard Robinson. And that will set up 3rd down.
A little bit of a wrinkle there by the Eastern Michigan defense. They stood all of their defensive linemen up that time, hoping that by standing them up, they'll have a little bit better vision of Denard Robinson and maybe even get that offensive line a little bit on its heels, maybe a look that they haven't seen throughout the first 2 ball games.
3rd and 5, 2-back set here. Toussaint and Smith in at the same time. And Michigan has already shown a number of different looks here in their opening drive after the turnover. Robinson to the air, and Smith had it go through his hands on 3rd down, and Michigan will be in a punting situation.
Well, Vincent Smith, number 2, is their situational back, and we were talking with Denard yesterday, and he mentioned that he's got the utmost confidence in Vincent Smith, both as a receiver out of the backfield and as a playmaker. Unfortunately, he dropped the ball, which would have been a surefire completion and conversion on the 1st down.
Well, the offense has stayed on the field here for Michigan as they face a 4th and 5, but the play clock at 1. And so Michigan, Rack was showing at least the thought that they're going to leave the offense out there and go for it. It will reset the play clock. Does it surprise you at 4th and 5 that Denard Robinson would be on the field, or could we see a pooch punt from the quarterback?
I doubt that we're going to see a pooch punt, but you're talking about a territory right here that's right in between that punt and field goal. It would be a long field goal attempt. Of course, haven't attempted a field goal yet this year, but feeling comfortable with number 16 to make a play.
Here comes the blitz. Robinson has it picked up nicely, and he fires intercepted. Picked off by Darius Scott, a freshman from Chicago.
One of the things Al Borges told us yesterday as far as what Denard Robinson has to work on, it's his footwork. And these are the examples right here. Gets a little bit lazy with his feet. That ball's behind Junior Hemingway, results in the interception.
A pair of turnovers to start this game. Each side has given it away. Eastern Michigan will have it when we return. No score here at the Big House, and big number 77 is back home. John Jansen, a national champion for the Wolverines in 1997, and an All-American, 2-time All-Conference performer on the offensive line, has traded in his pads for a microphone. He's the 3rd member of our BTN crew, and he's down on the field. John, I know it feels great to be back home.
It does. Anytime you get a chance to come back to Ann Arbor, especially for the things that my teams were able to accomplish, it's like coming home. And the fan base here, it's just like getting a big bear hug every time you come back to Ann Arbor.
You know, when Brady Hoke was hired here, they said that they've got a Michigan man back in charge. And when we talk to the folks around here, a lot of Michigan principles are back in play. Is that great to see?
It is. You know, the physical, the toughness, playing smart, all those things are the things that Brady demands. And he talks about the expectations for the position. And that is what he's really brought back. It doesn't matter who's in there or who's playing. It's the expectation is for the position. And really that's what he's brought back to this football team.
John, great having you back. We'll hear from you a little bit later.
Sounds good.
Julius Shelby with that 18-yard reception off play action for Eastern Michigan sets up an Eagles first down. And Eastern Michigan, Derek, out of the MAC, and like we saw Toledo in the horseshoe last week, wasting no time to try to be a little bit unconventional for them. They are a sound running team.
Yeah, without a doubt, seeing some wrinkles already going through the run and the pass game, and I expect to see a lot more just like this play right here.
And this is Tyler Allen on the end around, and Allen takes it well into Michigan territory as he's down to the 37-yard line. Thomas Gordon and Brandon Hawthorne combined on the tackle. It's a pickup of 17.
Well, we talked about Dominique Shear being out today, one of their running backs that has had 2 straight 100-yard gains. So Tyler Allen, number 82, actually listed as a wide receiver, but has played some running back in high school, will probably get some carries. You'll see him out of the wide receiver position, potentially also in the backfield.
He was a great running back at Eastern High School over in Lansing. Gillette designed quarterback takeoff, and he brings it inside the 30 with long strides and a pickup on first down of 7 yards for Eastern Michigan. Here comes 2nd and 3.
Well, you can still see that this defense is growing because on that type of play, you've got to have an outside defender, somebody covering what we call the D gap, which is the most outside gap on that offense or defense. You see Michigan defense has got outflanked, and it allowed Alex Gillette to pick up 8 yards.
2nd and 2 now for a Michigan defense, which last year was much maligned. 110th in the nation in total defense. They allowed more than 450 yards a game. 108th in scoring defense. 112th in passing defense. They're last in the Big Ten in all 3 categories. And Eastern Michigan uses a timeout as they look at a 2nd and 2 with 8:09 to go. And he's got the Eagles driving just like they were on their first possession when they coughed it up. Out of the eye. And Michigan stands tall on 2nd and short. J.B. Fitzgerald, Mike Martin, and Will Henninger in on the stop for a loss of 3.
Nice job of that Michigan defense, showing a lot of pressure up front. Got into what I would call a bear defense, where they cover up both the center and the guards, and they bring an extra linebacker up on the line of scrimmage. It's primarily a run-stopping defense. Although you leave yourself susceptible to the pass game, it's one of the toughest defenses to establish a running game against.
79 yards on the ground for Eastern Michigan. Michigan has a total of 31 yards here early. Here is the quarterback, Gillette. He's hit in the backfield, but somehow slips through. Still short of the first down. Ryan Van Bergen and Jordan Kovacs finally brought him down. It was Brandon Hawthorne who came in from his linebacker spot and made contact with Gillette. Gillette wants to go for it here. They're going to keep the offense on the field. 4th and short for Michigan.
Expect Michigan to bring a lot of guys up to the line of scrimmage. Eastern Michigan trying to go quick.
Gillette tosses, and here goes Eastern Michigan on the sweep, and it goes for a first down. Flag on the play at the end of that carry by Javonte Green. A great call as everyone was focused in for the quarterback sneak.
After the play, personal foul, late hit, number 21 on the defense. Half the distance to the goal, first down.
Excellent play call right there by Ken Karcher. Everybody expecting it to go inside, and you can see that Michigan defense pinching. They run a toss to the outside, outflank the entire defense, and able to move the chains.
Let's go back down the field. Big John Jansen knows what it's like to have big offensive linemen, and EMU going really big, John.
They are. They're using 5, obviously 5 linemen, and at times they're going 6 and 7 offensive linemen. They want to get bigger up front. They feel that the way to win this game is to win the ground game, and that's how, again, that's what teams have had success against Michigan have done.
And they did it again with big Orlando McCord in there. And Green carries it straight away before Kovacs can bring him down. Michigan's strength has been the run, but they've also had a hard time stopping the run, allowing more than 5 yards to carry to the opposition.
And that gets a lot back to technique, and that's one of the things that Brady Hoke, of course, a longtime defensive-minded coach, along with Greg Madison, have been preaching to these guys, is it all starts with technique, low pad level, great with the hands, shedding blocks. It's exactly where this Michigan defense needs to grow.
Joe Fleming, Javonte Green in the backfield for Eastern Michigan. This is Green, and he gets tripped up right near the line of scrimmage. Penetration that time by Jabril Black. And Will Henninger gets credit for the stop.
Got a chance to see Ryan Van Bergen get some penetration on that play right as well. He also will play some defensive end as well as defensive tackle, one of the more versatile guys on that defensive front for the Wolverines.
3rd and goal for the Eagles. Stacked backfield. Green straight ahead. And he's down to the 1.
A couple times now on this drive, you're seeing some confusion by that Michigan defense. They're trying to flop sides, and Jabril Black had a hard time getting back to his assignment. Didn't get lined up in time for the snap. They're lucky that ball didn't get into the end zone.
Eastern Michigan had big Corey Watman, typically their left guard, in as a fullback. And a 4th and goal. Eastern Michigan's looking to punch it in. Watman in there as part of a power formation for the Eagles. And now Michigan uses a timeout.
Timeout, Michigan. Their first charge.
So Brady Hoke wants to talk about it. We have seen Eastern time and again on both their opening drive and now their second possession, Derek, do things that may be a little out of character for their run-based offense. And once again, you can chalk it up to the fact that they don't know how many times they're going to be in this position. They've got to punch it in.
Well, we saw it on that first short yardage situation, and that was one of the things that I was thinking about as they came up to the line of scrimmage, is be alert for something crazy going on here. They lined up in that double I formation, and of course we know about Alex Gillette, his ability to run. So I would look for some type of option or them pitching it, trying to get out on the perimeter. They're giving Ken Karcher extra time to dive into his playbook.
Fourth and goal from the 1. So what do you expect here out of Eastern?
Again, like I mentioned, I think they're going to try to throw a little bit of trickery into the mix. I wouldn't be surprised if they run some type of option or maybe just a toss sweep to the outside, thinking that Michigan's going to pinch inside for the inside run again.
They've got the bigs back there one more time on 4th and goal. Initially stopped on the dive and then stopped once again on the ground. It was Jordan Kovacs who came in for the stop for Michigan.
Jordan Kovacs, just an MVP on this defense right there. Huge stop for the Wolverines to get this crowd back into the game. And of course, they did exactly the opposite of what I had mentioned. They went with a straight dive play up the gut. Kovacs came around the outside and was able to get his hands on the ball carrier.
Kovacs is an incredible story, a former walk-on who had to try twice to make the team. And week 1 against Western Michigan had 10 tackles and a couple of sacks. Michigan will have the ball backed up from their own 1-yard line.
Immediate timeout.
Big stop for the Michigan defense on 4th and goal, and Denard Robinson will take over for the Wolverines. Second possession for Michigan. He's second in the Big Ten in completion percentage. Last year was second in the nation with 329 yards a game. And the junior from Deerfield Beach, Florida, will operate under center on first down. Toussaint is his running back, and Toussaint takes it straight ahead and maybe picks up a yard. 2nd and 9. Let's meet the starters for Michigan, and on the offensive line it's David Molk, who is the anchor. He's on the watch list for the Remington Award and the Rotary Lombardi Trophy. Roundtree had the game winner against Notre Dame. Hemingway was also big, and Kevin Koger has found a new lease on life in this new offense for Michigan. Steve Watson is in at fullback right now for Michigan. And Denard wants to throw, batted away right at the goal line, and that one almost played for a pick by Javon Reese.
We're seeing early on in the ball game that this Eastern Michigan defense is going to make Michigan throw the ball against them. Early on, they've continued to bring 8 guys up into the box. They want to make sure they stop the run. They'll leave their guys out on the islands to see if Denard and company can beat them through the passing game, but able to make some plays down here inside the 5-yard line to put Michigan in a difficult situation here on 3rd down.
It was Jabbar Westerman who knocked it away at the line. 3rd and 9. Vincent Smith now in a tailback for Michigan. They're going to roll the pocket for Denard. On the run, pressured, steps up and out of the end zone, but just barely. It's Westerman with another big play, the senior from Brampton, Ontario. Now for the Auto Owners Insurance starting defense for Eastern Michigan, and they came up huge on that series, including Westerman, who wasn't in the starting 4 up front. Cudworth had 13 tackles week 1 against Howard and a talented secondary, which includes UCLA transfer Marlon Pollard. And Pollard back to receive this punt from the freshman Matt Weil with his heels near the end line and into the wind. Pollard with a running start at the 38, and he's inside the 25 already. And field position belongs to Eastern Michigan. 37-yard punt, 10-yard return.
A couple things stick out on that punt. Again, number 1, didn't have enough hang time, and number 2, that Eastern Michigan punt return team did an outstanding job of holding that punt team from Michigan at the line of scrimmage. As soon as Thomas got his hands on the ball, there was nobody in the way. He was able to get the ball inside the 25-yard line. Excellent field starting position here for the Eagles.
Alex Gillette directs this Eastern Michigan offense, which comes in today, tops in the nation with a 289-yard difference in yardage, rush yards and rush yards allowed, and a slippery power run by Javonte Green. He goes straight ahead for 5 yards. Up front, Sorgatz was injured on that last drive by Eastern Michigan. We'll see if he is returned. And Green getting the start at running back in front of Dominic Shearer, who's out with an injury. We've also seen Joe Fleming in a tailback. And they try to go straight ahead on 2nd and 5, once again on the ground. Now for the Auto Owners Insurance starting defense for Michigan. Mike Martin is the stud up front for Michigan. He is a fantastic senior, which anchors at defensive line. And he's already ripped that jersey halfway off. And in the secondary, Jordan Kovacs, the Lott Trophy Impact Player of the Week against Western Michigan with 10 tackles. Not bad for a guy who 2 years ago started the season on special teams. 3rd and 4. Low snap, Gillette scrambles, tucks, runs. First down, Eastern Michigan. Brandon Hawthorne finally shoves him out of bounds.
That was a good guess right there by the Eastern Michigan offense. The Wolverines had pressure coming from the backside or from Eastern Michigan's left side of the formation. They just happened to have a run going off the right-hand side and allowed that field to open up for Alex Gillette.
Michigan has been outscored 21-0 in the first quarter. On offense, they threw a pick on their first possession. They were backed up last time. Green powers his way forward. Craig Rowe, who left after the first possession with an injury, is back for Michigan, and he's in on that tackle along with Brandon Hawthorne.
And for the most part, early on in this ball game, that Eastern Michigan offensive front is doing a good job of controlling the line of scrimmage. Outside of a couple of plays, you haven't seen too many of those Wolverines defensive linemen leak through the line of scrimmage. That's the reason why they've been able to have some success running the football early on. They
send the running back Green out wide. This is Joe Fleming, and he takes it to the 6. Pickup of 2. 3rd down now for Eastern Michigan. Remember, they were stoned at the 1-yard line on 4th and goal on their last possession. They can still pick up a first down without putting it in the end zone.
This is where they got to come up with a big play on defense. Again, get this crowd back in the ball game. And if you can get a stop here at the line of scrimmage, I truly believe that Eastern Michigan's got to go ahead and take the field goal. Got to get the points on the board.
So you don't think it's 4-down territory here? 3rd and 5. Gillette is a great running quarterback on the end around. This is Green, and he takes it inside the 5. Pickup of 2. And here comes the kicking unit for Eastern Michigan.
I think this is the right decision right here. You're just now inside the 5-yard line on the 4. They'd have to pick up 3 yards to get the first down. And I think early in this ball game, you got to get the points on the board with the field goal.
Cody Fulkerson will attempt the field goal for Eastern Michigan. He is 2 for 3 on the season. 21-yard attempt for Fulkerson. And the first quarter comes to an end with Michigan still scoreless in the opening frame this season.
That's the end of the
and
first
Ron
quarter.
English's Eagles looking to take the lead with a chip shot field goal. The Eagles of Eastern Michigan looking to take a lead on their neighbors here in Ann Arbor. Set up by a short punt, and now Cody Fulkerson, 7th play of this drive. Zupanchik is the snapper, Karcher the holder. 21-yard attempt. And the first play of the second quarter sees Eastern Michigan take a 3-0 lead on the Wolverines. Ron English back in the big house, and his team has the lead. And here at the big house, the question over the course of spring ball in the summer was how Al Borges could incorporate one of the most dynamic players in college football into what is typically his choice as a pro-style attack.
Well, you're starting to see a little bit of both, and of course the spread option, what Denard has done so well in his career is he's reading the flow of the linebackers. You see everybody comes to the right-hand side of the formation. He pulls it back out, sees a big hole, and of course makes a huge gain with his feet. But then this is a more traditional pro style. You see the lead by the running back, Michael Shaw, right there. And all he's doing is looking for a hole. And again, the improvisation of Denard Robinson breaks this one all the way to the backside. So you're seeing some of that read option, and you're seeing some of the pro style offense of Al Borges.
Brady Hoke and his coaching staff said, listen, when we came in, we had 2 choices. We could either blow it all up and start from the ground up, or we could make use of one of the best players in college football. And that would be really bad coaching if we didn't. So it's almost a hybrid look now for Michigan as they mix both parts of the offense.
Well, that was one of the questions that talked with Coach Borges about is how do you flirt that line between getting him enough carries and not too many so he doesn't get hurt. And he said that's one of my biggest challenges, the offensive coordinator.
Vincent Smith straight ahead, a return of 13 yards. All right, thanks, Dave. Here at the big house, 3rd possession for Michigan. They went for it on 4th down, and Denard Robinson threw an interception on their first possession. Second one backed up, couldn't get out of the shadow of their own goalpost. And they try to go straight ahead with that running game. Fitzgerald Toussaint was still on his feet, and he'll be stopped for perhaps a loss of 1 on 1st down. Michigan is looking hard, Derek, for a reliable runner to complement Denard Robinson in the backfield. And they're still looking.
Well, and this is exactly what they have to do. I mean, I don't want to discount anything in this game about Eastern Michigan, but of course we know that once they get into conference play, they're going to have to establish a run game, and they can't expect that to come from number 16 every ball game.
2 tight ends in the game now for Michigan. And play action. Denard has time and tries to find his tight end down the sideline. Wanted a flag. He was looking for Kevin Koger. Didn't get the flag. Coverage by Justin Cudworth, the junior college transfer.
And I think Koger had an argument on this one. It surely looked like the defender was hanging onto his jersey. There's another look at it right there. Denard putting a little bit too much air underneath this football, but it surely looked like Koger was held down by the linebacker Cudworth on that play.
Remember, Denard in the first 3 quarters last week against Notre Dame was anything but an All-American. His 4th quarter, 7 of 10 for 202 yards and 3 touchdowns. And some of the trouble came on those touch passes, including trying to set up a running back screen in the middle of the field that he threw for a pick. 3rd and 11. Chased, flushed, uncorks one, incomplete. Brad Orman brought the pressure on Denard Robinson. Orman had 3 sacks last week against Alabama State.
And Robinson was looking for Roundtree right across the middle of the football field, and he absolutely had him. Again, Robinson was a little bit tied up in the backfield, but Roundtree was wide open in the middle. Ball was just overthrown.
Phil Snow's the defensive coordinator at Eastern Michigan, doing a fine job here early. And the freshman Matt Weil with his 2nd punt of the day. And this one hangs up Seems like he's always kicking into the wind. Pollard takes it at the 48-yard line. Eastern Michigan in plus territory again. They have owned field position and look to add to their lead against Michigan.
Timeout on the field.
Today's Verizon Key Connection resides mostly on the Eastern Michigan sideline. 3 former Michigan players on the coaching staff, including Kurt Anderson, offensive line coach Steve Morrison, their linebackers coach, and recently retired from the NFL, the all-time leading rusher in Michigan history, Mike Hart, offensive quality control coach. He's up in the press box watching along, anxious to get into coaching and couldn't turn down the opportunity.
Well, obviously not too far down the road from his alma mater right here, and you look back at some of the footage, and he had some good games against Eastern Michigan. I wonder if that's part of the reason that Ron English said, you know what, why don't you come join our staff and show some of our guys what to do.
Play action, Gillette rolls, loses a man, and dumps it for a gain of almost 6 to Kinsman Thomas. Mike Hart remains the last 1,000-yard rusher in Michigan program history, and that might be a few years ago, but the bottom line is this is a Michigan offense which has had a hard time sustaining drives this season.
Well, absolutely. The offense has been a quick strike offense. Denard and company have been able to put points on the board really quickly. That's great, but what it does is it puts your defense on the field for a long time.
Double pass on 2nd and 4. Deep ball from the wide receiver. Picked off at the goal line. Thomas Gordon never bit, and he takes it away for another Michigan takeaway.
Eastern Michigan lined up their backup quarterback Tyler Benz at the wide receiver position. You'll see him slide back here. Throw is behind the line of scrimmage, so this is a legal play, but give a lot of credit to Thomas Gordon staying foot for foot with their running back Javonte Green, and an outstanding catch by a defensive back. A lot of people say that defensive backs were wide receivers that couldn't catch. I think Thomas Gordon proved everybody wrong right there.
The redshirt sophomore from Detroit takes it away. That's 7 takeaways for Michigan in their last 6 quarters of football. Eastern Michigan has had control and field position in this game. I don't know if they had to go to a trick play on 1st down.
I agree with you, Tom, and especially here you're talking about they always want to try to get points, but it was almost like a punt because, again, you got Michigan starting back in between inside their 5-yard line.
Denard on the zone read takes off, and here he goes. Shoelace moving to midfield. And Denard Robinson flips the field on the Eagles, taking it all the way out for a pickup of 55.
And this is almost the exact play that we showed from the game last week against Notre Dame. Look at him reading the flow of the defense. Everybody crashes down. He pulls it out and has all kinds of field in front of him. But give a lot of credit to Roy Roundtree, number 12. That's what the offensive coaches told us yesterday, is these wide receivers have really embraced blocking downfield, knowing that number 16 can make things happen.
And here he goes on a designed power play for the quarterback. And Denard Robinson, after a 55-yard gain, picks up 4, 2nd and 6. Brandon Slater with the stop. What a change of pace for Michigan. Their first 3 possessions left a lot to be desired. A 4th down interception on their first, and then consecutive punts. 0 net yardage on their last 2 possessions.
Well, obviously they're now in position to drive the football down the field to try to put points on the board. But most importantly, what we just talked about is the fact that they've now changed the field position. Eastern Michigan has dominated through a little over the first quarter, having the advantage in field position. Now the tides have turned a little bit.
Another quarterback play, popped before he could finish the draw as Willie Williams came in from his safety spot. It's a loss of 3.
Well, that's something that I talked about a little bit in the first quarter, the fact that Eastern Michigan's going to load up the box. They've got to stop the running game. That's why you saw Willie Williams, the safety, come down in. Makes a nice open field tackle, and Denard in the backfield.
3rd and 8 for Michigan. The Wolverines don't want to waste that 55-yard run from Denard. They are 0 for 3 on 3rd downs today. Again, they call number 16, and again he picks up a 1st down. Shoelace lost the football, scooped up at the 21-yard line, and Michigan is bailed out by Vincent Smith, a gain of 21.
Well, you see Al Borges on this drive. He continues to dial up Denard. He knows that Denard is a momentum quarterback. We've seen a couple of big plays. Wants to get the football in his hands and watch him make plays here in the open field. And Wilson gets the tackle right at the end to prevent from that touchdown.
Al Borges said it is intoxicating to call his number. You've got to keep a balance about you when you're calling offensive plays. And make sure 16 doesn't carry it too much. Once again, Denard taking over. Play action, and he dumps it to his tight end. This is Coger, and Coger's inside the 10, dragging Latarius Thomas down with him. A gain of 11.
So again, we're starting to see some of that integration between that spread offense and the pro. That was more of a spread concept right there. You can see he's still reading the defense, but they run play action off of it, sliding the tight end, Kevin Coger, across the formation. He ends up wide open on the opposite side.
Al Borges told us yesterday that there's going to be some plays that Rich Rodriguez will watch on film and say, hey, we ran that play last year. So if I didn't put Denard in a position to succeed, that would just be bad coaching. Denard checks at the line. His running back is Shaw. Robinson popped again. Another ear hole shot. That's his second hard hit he's taken on this drive. Brandon Slater, 6'2", 280, came in and popped it.
And I think Denard predetermined which direction he was going to go on that play. Hit his left guard, Ricky Barnum, pull around the corner. That's the time when you need to be like a running back. Put your left hand on the back of your offensive line and ride him all the way through the hole. I think Denard made his mind up that he was going to go to the left side.
Second and goal. Denard has been a little banged up. In fact, his arm was sore. He didn't throw much in practice on Thursday. He throws here, and Coger's in. Touchdown, Michigan. Nine-yard touchdown pass to Coger, who had two big grabs on the tail end of that drive, which was paced by the feet of Denard Robinson. Brendan Gibbons to attempt the extra point. And Michigan has its first lead of the game against their neighbors from the same county.
Well, again, you got Denard Robinson doing what he does best. The read option, pulls that ball out, makes a huge play in the open field to set Michigan up for the touchdown. And right here, of course, quick play action. Ball gets into the hands of Kevin Coger for the touchdown.
7-3, Michigan with its first lead thanks to Denard Robinson.
Oh, we talked about the quick play action, and this is his read right here. The safety, Willie Campbell. He's going to read his eyes. Willie Campbell stays in the backfield for just enough time. Denard gets this ball out of his hands quickly into Kevin Coger. That's what opened up the window for the touchdown.
Denard had 90 yards on that drive, 70 of them on the ground from Michigan. 97-yard drive and a touchdown. First three drives ended in 2 punts and a pick. From the 8, it's Corey Welch, and Welch has room, and he's got room down the numbers and takes it all the way out past the 40, a 31-yard return for the senior from Akron. Our triple header continues when the Gophers square off with Miami of Ohio, another Big Ten MAC clash. And then in prime time, the Fighting Illini battle 18th ranked Arizona State. Or you'll see other matchups later today only on BTN. Once again, great field position for Eastern Michigan. And the running game pounds out nearly 10 on first down from Javonte Green. All right, thanks, Dave. A lot of neighbors getting together on the gridiron today. Eastern Michigan, depending on how that crow is flying, is about 7 miles away. from the Michigan campus. Gillette gives it off and gives it up. Great penetration up front by Michigan, and Jake Ryan, who got his second start of the season today, in for the injured Cameron Gordon, found a home in the eastern backfield.
They see Jake Ryan up at the top of your screen doing a good job of just coming around the corner right here. That's just called playing hard and going to the football right there. I've been impressed by watching Jake Ryan, the redshirt freshman out of Ohio, on film. He's got a really high motor. As a guy that's always going to give you 110%. I think he'll be a really good player in this defense.
They're getting big down on that offensive line again. Another tackle in at a tight end spot. That's Lincoln Hansen. And Gillette takes it straight away, looking for one. He may have got spun past midfield. Jabril Black with the stop, picked up 2. Let's go back down the field once again to John.
Yeah, the Michigan defense is right now getting pushed around. They're just too much. They're giving too much ground. They brought in Will Campbell. You can see him on that last play was able to take up 2 blockers. With Eastern bringing in so many offensive linemen, they need to get bigger up front and stop that run game.
John, it's a defense that has been designed to mix in a lot of zone blitzes. That's kind of taken out of the element when you're facing a running game, is it not?
It is. You know, when you zone blitzing, you really got to guess where that ball is going, and right now they just haven't guessed right.
They're going strong to the right side here. 2 tight ends and a tackle, trying to boot the opposite way. Gillette finds his man short of the first down as Thomas Gordon converged to shove the receiver out of bounds, and it will bring up 4th down. Tyrese Russell is the tight end who had the grab.
Well, you're starting to see Eastern Michigan doing a lot of motioning or shifting their tight end across the formation because the Michigan Wolverines are flipping sides. They're playing strong and weak defensive ends and tackles, and it's giving them some problems adjusting to it. So I would anticipate seeing the Eagles continuing to flop the tight end from left to right, changing the strength of the formation.
Jake Carruthers set to punt it away. Native of Australia, never played football till he came to the States, and Jeremy Gallen back to return for Michigan. They're going to give Carruthers a little bit more room. Mike Conlon, our white hat.
Delay. Number 37 on the offense. 5-yard penalty. Repeat 4th down.
Carruthers back home in North Ryde, Australia, played Australian rules football. They said he's got some speed and can run it a little bit, but you can also expect at times a rugby style punt from Carruthers. High kick that Gallen wants a fair catch on, and he'll take it at the 12.5-yard line. 6:34 to go in the second quarter from the big house. And Michigan forces the punt, leading Eastern Michigan 7-3. Denard back at quarterback. Al Borges used the term intoxicating when it comes to play calling with Denard Robinson at quarterback. And they went all Denard on that last drive for their first score. Here's Toussaint, the running back, and he picks up perhaps 5 before Marcus English, the senior from Dayton, Ohio, brings him down. So what is the answer for Michigan offensively long term?
I think long term for them is they've got to get into Al Borges' style of offense. Now that might take a year or two because obviously when Brady Hoke and his staff got here, they had Rich Rodriguez's style of offense players, spread type players on offense. So now they're going to start recruiting maybe a little bit bigger wide receivers, a little bit more prototypical quarterbacks after Denard leaves, and they'll try to go more of a power game.
And here's Denard once again, and he took another shot. Over the last 2 drives, he's been susceptible to big hits from the defense, and Blake Poole was in there to bring him down. A loss of 2 that time for Michigan. They really like the play of their backup quarterback Devin Gardner, but they don't want to see him today until they're in a position to put him in the game to have success.
Yeah, you always want to have your backup quarterback has got some game ready snaps, but Brady Hoke and Al Borges are approaching this game just like they're approaching every other game, that Denard Robinson is the quarterback, and he's going to continue to play quarterback until this game potentially would get out of hand. That's when Devin Gardner would come in and get some game snaps.
On 3rd and 7, Robinson rolls, stops, drops deep, incomplete. He was aiming for Hemingway. And 4th and 7 now for Michigan.
It looks to me like when Denard gets on the outside and sometimes he feels like a big play's coming, it almost feels like he's directing the football. He's not just getting out there and throwing it. It kind of sounds elementary, but it almost is like he's changing his throwing motion when he feels like he's got a big play coming. We saw it earlier in the first quarter again on that play. Put a little bit too much air underneath the ball. Just go ahead and throw it like you do every other pass.
Now while the freshman gets good carry on that one, and it goes off the Eastern Michigan player, but Pollard reacts to scoop it up, and it turns into a 4-yard return after a 39-yard punt. Pollard may have lost that one in the sun. He tried to back up at the last minute and went right off of his chest. Seven to 3, Michigan forced to punt it away once again. Denard Robinson remains off the mark. A very interesting scenario Thursday practice for Michigan, where Al Borges told Denard Robinson not to throw the ball, so they would run through the offense, and instead of following through on the passes, he would just pump fake and basically put the ball on his hip.
Yeah, it was a little surprising to me because when I was in the NFL, and of course the games are on Sundays there, we always called them Perfect Play Fridays. Sure, in college they could call it Perfect Play Thursday, but it's hard to get a picture of if you're running perfect plays if your quarterback's not delivering the ball to the receivers.
And the answer was that Denard has a sore arm, so they're just trying to rest that up and give him another day perhaps of rest before game day today. Maybe that's another reason he's off the mark here early on for Michigan. Real Heininger with the stop for Michigan. No gain, and Mike Martin lost his hat. He's a grappler. He doesn't need it. State champion wrestler out of Redford, Michigan, and he is the ace of that Michigan defense.
He's obviously in the discussion of one of the top defensive tackles, not only in this conference, but in the country as well. And you can see him still struggling with that helmet before the snap.
And so officials will stop play before he gets that equipment settled. And, you know, it's not a big trade-off. As great as Martin is, now they go to William Campbell, his backup. And Campbell 6'5", 322. And John Jansen has talked about the faith that they have in the big guy Campbell up front taking over at nose. No gain on 2nd down. Brandon Hawthorne with the stop.
Got a chance to see Will Campbell, number 73, come in and make a play right on cue. Mike Martin had to come out because the referee stopped the play, so he has to come out for a play. Will Campbell comes in. He gets nice penetration. He's able to make a tackle behind the line of scrimmage.
Eastern Michigan 2 of 6 on 3rd downs today. They've run into a maize and blue wall on their last 2 running plays. They show blitz. And end around. Off and running is Green, and Green tripped up, and a big time play by Jordan Kovacs. John Jansen is down on the sideline, and John, anytime we bring up Jordan Kovacs' names, the coaching staff just has a big smile and say he is a typical Michigan man.
Yeah, he is, and they love the way that he goes about his business. He's really the quarterback of that defense. He comes in, he helps guys get lined up, he understands what he needs to do, but getting the other guys lined up, motivating them, it is really what the value that he brings to that Michigan defense.
There's a flag on the play. It sits at the 49-yard line of Eastern Michigan.
After the play, personal foul, unnecessary roughness, number 1 on the offense. 15-yard penalty, 4th down.
That is Kinsman Thomas.
You talk about how important Jordan Kovacs is to this defense. I mean, that play was just outstanding. He's going to be right here, which is basically the left side of the defense. He's going to come all the way across the right side to make this play on the end around. You can see the lateral speed And he was the only one that could make that play. Otherwise, it might have gone for a first down. That's the reason why he's the MVP of this defense.
Greg Madison talked about Kovacs not having a big head. He said he had that huge game week 1 against Western Michigan. Came in to start Notre Dame prep. He said, let's go to work. A beautiful punt off the foot of Carruthers. And this drives Michigan back to the 15. Gallen has room. Here he goes. Flag on the play. And Jeremy Gallen's going to run this one all the way down the sideline. And finally steps out of bounds at the 12. This one likely coming all the way back to the Michigan 20. 43-yard punt. Carruthers may have outkicked his cover.
Block in the back. Number 80 on the receiving team. Half the distance to the goal. First down.
Unfortunately, you see this so often on big plays in the punt return game. Just an outstanding punt, as you mentioned, Tom. Had hang time, distance, and it was tied up against the sideline. And there you can see, I mean, that was an easy block in the back.
It'll be a 10-yard penalty.
Just an easy block in the back penalty for the officials to call right there. So instead of a huge gain getting into scoring territory, Ricardo Miller creates the block in the back, which is going to back up Denard Robinson and company.
So Michigan working with the lead, up 7-3. And Brady Hoke looking to go 3-0. He would be just the third Michigan head coach to start his career at 3-0. Back in 1969, Bo Schembechler's team was upset at home by Missouri before that big end-of-season showdown with Ohio State. From their own 13, Denard operating out of the shotgun. And on the zone read, he will keep it. Robinson cuts back at the 20, and he's out to the 24-yard line. 85th year at the Big House. Robinson comes back to the weak side. Another cutback and a stutter step move. He left the defender behind for a moment. Denard Robinson picks up another first down before Latarius Thomas stops him after a gain of 10.
Well, this is just improvisation again. I mean, this play is designed to go to the right side, and you can see he's just looking for a hole right here. And Javon Reese, I mean, there's just nothing that you can do against an athlete like that. And a play that he made, he almost broke 2 ankles on 2 different guys on that play.
12 carries, 117 yards for Denard Robinson. And now Smith, he's got a blocker out front, and Vincent Smith cuts it back. Number 2 is loose. Willie Williams finally with the stop. Looking for a big gain for a running back. How about 38 yards for the Pahokee, Florida native?
Well, we got a chance to see the senior center there, David Mull, get around the corner. That's when you have an athletic center, when you can pull him around the corner and lead. He's going to be right in the middle. Watch number 50 come around. And then Vincent Smith, like I talked about earlier in the game, just puts that right hand on his back and follow the big fellow around the corner.
And now Toussaint back in at running back. Another quarterback draw, and Denard Robinson gets folded up on his way up the field. A pickup of 3.
You know, once again, I think that was a predetermined by Denard that he was going to go left. Toussaint went to the right. There was a hole right there. You've just got to trust your running back and follow him through that hole. Remember, that's an extra hat. That's how you outflank the defense when you get your tailback coming through. He's not accounted for. Got to follow him through. He probably would have picked up an extra 5 to 10 yards.
Minute 15 and counting before the break here at the Big House. Now Robinson gives it up this time to Toussaint. He stutter steps through the hole and has Michigan set up another first down from the 11, gain of 11. Andy Malumba, junior from Montreal, Canada, with the stop.
And now you're seeing that Eastern Michigan defense. They have to pay attention to Denard because he's got going. It was just a little bit of hesitation by the defensive end, which is what opened that hole for the running back to slide through.
So the running game going now for Michigan. Out of the shotgun once again. Denard bobbled that snap, picks it up. No problem for 16. Touchdown, Michigan. second straight week, Denard Robinson has gathered a loose ball and taken it in. Against Notre Dame, it was a fumble by his running back. This time, his mitts were a little slick before he finally corralled it. 14 unanswered points for Michigan since they've opened up the offense and turned to the running game. Number 6, Denard Robinson replenishing his fluids after leading Michigan on back-to-back scoring drives. He has thrown for a touchdown today, and he has run for a touchdown. Students off to a much earlier start this week than last. And so is Denard. The freshman Wild squibs one straight up the middle, taken by one of the up men for Eastern Michigan, and Eastern will have good field position as Pow, the linebacker, returns it for 19 yards. 33. Alex Gillette is 3 for 4 through the air today for 29 yards. Gillette scrambling, and now he'll tuck and try to find the sideline. Stops the clock after a pickup of 9. Remember, Ron English called for that double pass when Eastern was in great field position, turned it over. That led to the Michigan drive. That might be the turning point in this game, the interception by Thomas Gordon.
Yeah, without a doubt. And it looks like he was going to try to see what he could pick up on first down, which would dictate whether or not he's going to continue to try to put points on the board, get deep into their territory. But spread out formation shotgun, looks like he's still going to try to take a shot.
Gillette rolls again, and he will stop the clock with a first down run and hops out of bounds after a gain of 3. 19 ticks remain.
Well, now we're seeing number 21 on the defense. Ramon Taylor's getting into the ball game in this nickel formation. He's done a nice job of sinking on both of these plays, getting underneath the outside defender that's breaking towards the sideline. That's what's produced Alex Gillette to try to run this ball out of bounds, because Taylor's been dropping back and covering up the wide receiver.
Played a lot of nickel last week against Notre Dame. And Brian Kelly's offense. 1st and 10. Here's the draw. Green attempts to bounce it. Instead, he just eats up clock after picking up 1. 2nd and 9. 11 seconds remain. And Eastern Michigan uses a timeout.
Timeout, Eastern Michigan. Their second charge. It's a 30-second timeout.
We told you about all the connections over on the Michigan sideline, and Ron English, a former coach. Today's Case IH Alumni Spotlight from the field here at the Big House up to the booth. Mike Hart, Michigan's career rushing leader with over 5,000 yards. Also was a workhorse back, a school record 1,015 carries. And do you know, he lost just 3 fumbles in his entire college career, 2 of which came in the 2008 Capital One Bowl. Recently retired from the Indianapolis Colts. And while most people know him in maize and blue, he's been wearing the green for a while, back in upstate New York. Onondaga Central High School, where I am told that here's his senior year, they actually wore green winged helmets. Perhaps a sign of things to come in the mix between Michigan and Eastern. 2nd and 10 for Gillette. Pressure. He will try to run this one out of bounds again to the sideline, and he scrambles his way to stop the clock with 4 seconds remaining, a gain of 7. And they're going to bring on the kicking team. Fulkerson has a long of 45 this season. And a sophomore from Zanesville, Ohio, in a swirling breeze, which at this point seems to be at his back, will attempt a 50-yarder. A low line drive, which just sneaks wide. Eastern Michigan scored the first 3 thanks to Fulkerson's leg. Then a costly turnover and a pick by Thomas Gordon. set the stage for Denard Robinson to take over. And so here at the Big House, at the break, Michigan leads Eastern Michigan 14-3. Ann Arbor native Mike Yoakum will kick it off to start the second half. A little bit of a breeze blew that football off the tee. And Yoakum waves off his teammates. I can set this one better here. Vincent Smith, junior from Pahokee, Florida. Denard Robinson calls him pound for pound the toughest guy on the team. And now they'll get a holder to come in to help out Yoakum.
We talked about it early on in the ball game. The field position battle was heavily skewed in favor of Eastern Michigan. So I would like to see Vincent Smith make a big play here on the kickoff return. Get this offense good field position to see if they can't dominate field position in the second half.
Latarius Thomas is the holder. Smith from the 1. And Smith will take it out past the 15 to the 17-yard line. A 17-yard return. Herb Waits brings him down and is fired up. And so here's Denard, who told us yesterday that when Al Borges was announced as the new offensive coordinator, the first thing number 16 did was go to the computer and YouTube Al Borges' offense. He said, I loved it because all of these passes were deep balls. And I said to myself, I could put together 4 or 5 deep balls for a big game.
Yeah, he felt that if he could just get 4 or 5 passes of 25, 50 yards or so, then he's already over 100 yards. But at the end of the day, he's still a quarterback, and he wants to throw the football.
And he's also a great runner. They start the second half with the zone read. Latarius Thomas finally brings him down. It's a gain of 7 on first down for Michigan.
Highly anticipated Al Borges going ahead and using both systems again here in the second half. We saw the zone read the first play. I would venture to say that he'll put Denard under center as well. There you get a shot at Al Borges. Put him under center a few times too and see if he can't get Shaw and Toussaint going here in the second half as well.
So out of the shotgun, once again, it was an all-around spread attack under Rich Rodriguez the last few years here and under a couple of different quarterbacks. And now Al Borges trying to work in the pro system and the spread. And they face a 3rd and short. John, what kind of challenges does that bring for offensive linemen trying to be hybrid linemen in 2 different systems?
Well, you know, the techniques for both systems, for a spread offense, it's more of a zone block. It's more of a, coming out of a 2-point stance. With a pro-style offense and a power offense, you're coming out of that 3-point stance all the time, and it's always a lead step. It's always a power step. So
the offensive linemen aren't the only ones that have had to make adjustments. Robinson takes a hit, tries to carry it on 3rd and short. And Willie Williams with the stop. He needed 2. And we'll see where the spot is if Michigan can keep going on its opening drive. John, you've got a much better view than we do. As Denard Robinson picks up the first down, it looks like he is taking some shots down there today.
He really is. He's taking some hard hits, and like you talked about earlier, I think there's been a couple times where he's predetermined where he's going. When he lets the game come to him and he really sees the game and sees the field, he does a much better job of avoiding some of those big hits.
Remember, Robinson 6 feet, 195 pounds. He is a slight quarterback, and he left 10 out of 12 games last year. Here's a step back throwback play from last year, and it's incomplete. Looking for Toussaint, and a big pop from Marlon Pollard. That is a play we saw a lot last year as you fake the quarterback run and he goes for the deep ball.
Well, it's just so big in this type of offense, especially when Denard's had so much success in the first half. He's going to fake that he's going to run the quarterback keeper, and again, he lofts this one over the head. I think this was still a good throw, but Toussaint saw the safety coming, and he was going to end up taking a big hit right there, and Denard knows that he should have brought that one in.
Looked like Martavius Odoms, a wide receiver, was open down the middle of the field. 2nd and 10 for Michigan, and here's Vincent Smith, and he has room to then some. And look at this speed past midfield. Thomas finally brings him down, and it's a pickup of 14.
That play right there shows me that Denard Reed is reading the defense right here. Hole opens wide up. Vincent Smith just jets right through it. Tom, you and I haven't played football in a long time. I think we could have picked up 10 or 15 yards through that hole.
Well, Smith is from talent-rich Pahokee, Florida, where they're known for their rich soil and sugarcane crops. They call it running in the muck down there, and that's a great way to train young backs. And here's Smith once again running through that Eastern Michigan muck straight ahead, perhaps to pick up 4. 2nd and 6, and Marcus English with the stop.
You know, another thing I've been noticing here throughout the past 15-20 minutes of game time is that Al Borges has been going a lot more of the shotgun because he wants to get 3 wide receivers on the football field, force Eastern Michigan to go into a nickel defense, which keeps that extra guy out of the box. That's part of the advantage you get when you run that zone read, is it gets one more defender away from the line of scrimmage, and Denard can beat him in the running game.
Michael Shaw's in the backfield now. Robinson pulls it out of his belly and dances his way for a first down. The Michigan tight end Kevin Koger lost his hat on that play, but continued laying the wood and clearing the way. Justin Cudworth finally with the stop after a gain of 8.
You know, he just looks so comfortable. Obviously, this is what they did the entire year last year. But you see the defender, Willie Williams, comes in there. He bites on the running fake, pulls it out, able to pick up a couple extra yards using a little shake and bake. Moves the chains once again for the Wolverines. Now they're starting to sustain a drive on offense, which is exactly what we talked about, coming up on 4 minutes now on this drive.
Opening drive of the second half. A nice balance between Denard and his running backs, and now he wants to throw again. High and tipped, and Kevin Koger at 6'4" couldn't stretch enough for that one.
Koger knew he was going to take a hit right there, but Denard Robinson, he'll look back at that one on film, and you know, I've talked about this in the past. Anytime you're throwing the ball to a tight end, you've got to stick that one on his numbers. Not to say that they can't make athletic or acrobatic catches, but with a tight end, they're usually not as flexible. You got to stick that right in between the 8-6. Let him catch the ball and turn up and see if he can't run somebody over for a couple extra yards.
Tight end's just happy to be part of this offense this year. Now Steve Watson, a tight end, in the backfield. Little misdirection. Here goes Smith. He's got fantastic speed, and he powers his way through a would-be tackler to pick up a Michigan first down. A gain of 13 for Smith. Down in Pahokee, Florida, they only have 2 traffic lights, but they've got about 15 guys that they've moved on to the NFL lately, including Anquan Bolden. They play at his stadium. The median income in Pahokee is just $10,000. Unemployment at 28%. They live for their football. It is big time. And Vincent Smith, one of 3 Pahokee kids on this Michigan roster. Here's Toussaint now. And Toussaint with a great name, great game inside the 10. Another Michigan first down. He picks up 12. They're sharing the load in the run game.
And that's the kind of hard running that I want to see out of this Michigan Wolverines offense. Fitzgerald Toussaint, you can see why he won the starting running back job coming out of camp. He's got some explosiveness and some ability to break tackles right there. As you see, he runs through the Eastern Michigan defense.
Third-year sophomore out of Youngstown, Ohio, had 2 touchdowns week 1 against Western Michigan. Another quarterback draw, and Denard, no gain on first down. Nate Pow, the best linebacker name in college football, perhaps, with the stop.
You know, and every time that they run a quarterback read or a designed run for Denard Robinson, they're not always going to get the big play. Obviously, the defense knows that it's coming, but the offensive line, especially on this drive, has been doing a good job of controlling that line of scrimmage, opening some holes. But Eastern Michigan, got to give him some credit, along with Nate Pow, able to shut that play down.
Michigan wants a timeout. They are 2 for 2 in the red zone today with a pair of touchdowns. And we'll take that break with them. Opening drive of the second half. Michigan looking to hold on to control against Eastern Michigan. Back in Ann Arbor, where it's 14-3 Michigan. And the Wolverine statue up on North Campus. Here's your most valuable Wolverine, though, Denard Robinson. 18 carries, 149 yards, a touchdown. I think probably 3 of those have been not called runs, scrambles in the passing game.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are called plays that he just tucks down. But got a chance to see Toussaint and Smith now with 12 carries for the game, 5 of them coming on this drive. They only had 7 in the entire first half.
Here's 2nd and goal. Robinson Cuts back, pump fakes, improvises, and on the run, he will get to the pylon. Down at the 1-foot line. 6-yard gain, 3rd and goal.
Outstanding effort there by Denard Robinson. And again, this is nothing that's drawn up. This is just what Denard Robinson does. Take a look at it here at the end, though. Does a knee come down here before he gets that ball? And it looks like his right side of his body was down before he reached that ball onto the pylon.
We haven't had stoppage of play for any reviews today, and they are certainly taking a look at that upstairs in the booth and will request more time. James Robinson.
The previous play is under further review.
Is our replay official today. I think you hit the nail on the head first view.
Yeah, you're looking for, while he's running the football, he's going to stretch it out, but you're looking to see, number one, if a body part comes down, and number two, where the ball is once something hits the ground. And I think that was a great call right there.
Right elbow was down before the ball got there, and the right side of his body, as you mentioned.
Yep. You can see he's stretching out the football, and you saw both his right leg and the right elbow hit the ground. So they're just looking to make sure, in my opinion, that they've got the spot right here. Where was the ball when those body parts hit the ground?
Let's go down to John. He's got an eagle-eye view. What'd you see down there, big fella?
Well, I was standing right at the cone here, and he made a great effort to get in the end zone, but his knee was down. They may move that ball a little bit closer.
Third down.
But it remains 3rd down, as you can hear.
And so 3rd and goal for Michigan. Toussaint will be in at running back. Along with Shaw. So they go out of the eye with Toussaint in the fullback spot. 3rd and goal. First man through is Toussaint, and he's up and over for another Michigan score. Vintage gorgeous.
Exactly. That was what I was looking to see when they came out with that ball spotted inside the 1-yard line. Will he line up under center, and will they run a power type system? Now, of course, Toussaint is not a fullback. They've got 2 tailbacks in the backfield at that time. But I've never liked when teams get inside the 5, inside the 1-yard line, and they run shotgun. I just don't see the reason to put your quarterback 5 to 6 yards behind the line of scrimmage when you're trying to jam it up in there for a touchdown.
Gibbons punches through his 3rd extra point of the afternoon. 21 unanswered for Brady Hoke's Wolverines. This neighborhood affair has turned towards the home team. 21-3 Michigan.
On the field.
If you've ever wanted to hear how the action is on the goal line, take a listen to Denard and company inside the 1-yard line.
That may be the only time in his day that Denard Robinson doesn't smile. And if you're curious and you've seen interviews with him, he sounds nothing like that in his civilian life. Another squib kick from Michigan, and tripped up at the 31-yard line is Jeremy Curry, a 12-yard return. Well, there's one current Michigan quarterback, and some former Michigan QBs were busy setting a record Monday night at the pro level. Tom Brady and Chad Haney combined for an NFL single game record 906 net pass yards.
Not too bad for the former Michigan quarterbacks. And boy, you talk about extremes. Didn't even know if we were going to have an NFL season for it getting kicked off in outstanding fashion for a couple of Wolverines throwing the football all over the field.
1st and 10 from the 32 for Eastern Michigan. In our coaches meetings yesterday, you talked about Michigan's return to Michigan football. Here it is with the blitz and a stop. Craig Rowe with the quarterback sack. Mike Martin in to assist. It's a loss of 7. But your thought was Michigan has always been predicated on stifling defense in a great run game. And that, you say, is one of the reasons nobody knew what Tom Brady was capable of when he was here in college.
Yeah, I mean, I played at Minnesota in the late 90s, and of course we played Michigan. And anytime you played the Wolverines, it was running the football and tough defense. And I think that's the reason why Brady comes out as a 6th-round pick in the draft, because that wasn't what they were known to do. Quarterback play wasn't the focus at Michigan.
That's Green with the carry. He picks up 5, and that will leave 3rd and long. The Big Ten, 2nd only to the SEC in players at the National Football League level. And one of those guys with us, John Jansen, down on the sideline. John, you know, we talk a lot about getting back to Michigan football. One slight change, there are now sleds once again at the practice field, and it might sound crazy to say.
I know, it's nice to see. You got sleds for the defensive linemen, you got chutes for the offensive linemen. You got to be able to come off low and hard, and that's what's going to define this Michigan team.
3rd and long. Greg Madison is the defensive coordinator. He's back in Ann Arbor after a previous coaching stint here. And we talked to him about the big changes defensively for this program. And speaking of the sleds, he said, when I got here, I looked around and we didn't find any sleds. I said, that's the first thing we're doing. You've got to learn to hit, you've got to learn technique, and you've got to get right technique-wise. And John, that's another thing you talked about. It's not all scheme, but with him, it starts with technique.
It really does, and that goes both at any position, but it's more important up front, because you know, if you don't play with good technique, you don't play with good pad level, you're going to get beat, and getting beat up front is what gets you beat in games.
Karutz had a great punt last time, and Gallen set to return. This is another beauty for the former Australian rules kicker. Gallen changes direction, and he crawls his way out to the 26-yard line. Denard Robinson still in at quarterback, and they're going to run him out of the spread, and has a tough time getting back to the line. Cudworth with the stop. We've talked a lot about the job that Greg Madison has done. He was with Rex Ryan with the Baltimore Ravens, and he said, I learned a lot from Rex. His philosophy is to overload one area, get more hats against the opponent hats, and try to get to the ball. We saw last week under the lights here a lot of zone blitzing, and they worked their way into some big plays, and they worked their way out of some.
Yeah, it can be really good, or it can also hurt you, and you saw that a little bit of both last week. You're not seeing it too much today because of the running game typically that has been given by Eastern Michigan. But when you talk about zone defense and zone pressure, what we mean by that is a lot of times you're bringing 2 linebackers, but you're pulling out 2 defensive tackles, 2 defensive ends, and filling their gaps. But you can think about if you pull a Mike Martin out of the middle of the defense and you run something right up the middle, obviously you're going to get gashed. So you've got to be smart when you take your chances with zone pressure.
A moment ago, that was the first career carry for the freshman from Flint, Michigan, Thomas Rawls, out of Flint Northern High School, freshman running back. 3rd and 5 now. Thought Rawls might get a carry today, and Robinson finds his man. That is complete for a Michigan first down, and then a few more. And Jeremy Gallen out of Apopka, Florida, former high school quarterback, who runs a 4.3 40, picks up 27 yards.
Tom, you talked a little bit earlier about Vincent Smith and how Denard Robinson thinks he is such a good player. Watch him on the blitz pickup right here. Steps up, stones the linebacker. That little bit is what gives Denard enough time to get this ball to Jeremy Gallen down the football field. Excellent play by a running back in pass protection.
16 first downs from Michigan today after a slow start. They turn it over on their very first possession. Smith bowls his way to a gain of 4.
Now the talented defensive players that they had last year, and the fact that they're not there on that defense anymore.
Play action. They set up the screen. Here goes Gallen, and Gallen gets popped. There's a leak in that bucket. Galanji, Kashama in there along with Justin Cudworth.
And give Eastern Michigan credit for recognizing that play coming to him. You saw Cudworth and Kashama both coming out of the box, flying to the football. That's what we call it. Listen to this hit right here. Nice hit right there by Cudworth, the junior college transfer, but the recognition of that screen pass coming is the reason why they slowed it down.
3rd and 4. Michigan has converted 50% of his third down opportunities today. Maybe the last drive for Denard. Handles the low snap, and Robinson will take off. He picks up a first down. Denard Robinson inside the 30. And Robinson continues to carry this team. Number 16 goes for 16.
Well, and again, you saw him spread it out with 4 wide receivers right there, which puts so many defensive players on the field. You got to play nickel or dime. But the problem is now you have nobody for the quarterback. See a little pressure coming for the edge, but nobody's there for the quarterback. You get a nice block downfield there by Kelvin Brady, the wide receiver. Once again, Robinson moving the chains with his feet.
300-yard rushing game for Michigan. Smith. Marcus English at 10 tackles against Alabama State. He's with the stop. Pickup of 7 for Vincent Smith. You know, we saw Rawls, the freshman running back, earlier in this drive, and I wonder if this wasn't maybe kind of a tryout situation as they look for someone to carry the load. But some of these guys, Smith especially, starting to pick up his game.
I was just going to say, Tom, I've been really impressed by Vincent Smith because of his all-around game. We just saw his blitz pick up from the running back position, and he runs hard and he sees the holes well when he's got the football in his hands.
Robinson, a line drive shot, incomplete. It was a laser looking for Roundtree. He had the game winner against Notre Dame.
He just missed Junior Hemingway in the middle of the field.
Hey, John, we're seeing, and you're seeing down low, a great view of the running backs. And Vince Smith might be 5'6", but he is a tough runner.
He is, and he hits the hole with a purpose. He is going downhill. He is going to try and get everything he possibly can before he gets hit, and then after he gets hit, he's going to carry that defender for another 1 or 2 yards. He's really running with a purpose and running hard.
Michael Schofield has entered the game at left guard for Michigan. Denard trying to run right behind he and Lewan, and Denard takes it for a first down. Brad Orman with the stop, pick up a 4. Second trip here for Ron English's Eastern Michigan team. 2 years ago, Denard had a pair of touchdown runs against the Eagles. Number 16 making his 16th straight start today. Smith lined up deep in the backfield, full head of steam, and tripped up behind the line of scrimmage. He didn't think he was down, and Vincent Smith with great balances. That should have been a touchdown. Blake Poole credited with the stop. Let's see if those knees for number 2 ever hit the turf. That is a low center of gravity. 5'6", 172.
Ruling on the field is the runner's forearm hit the ground, therefore he's dead.
Well, John talked about Vincent Smith running with a purpose, and this is what every coach wants to see. You running back, you continue to pump your legs until they call you down. I think that was a good call. I do think that his arm was down, but I love the fact that he continues to run that football until he hears the whistle, get that ball in the end zone.
Forearm and elbow both down. Play clock at 2. Denard throwing on the run. Touchdown, Michigan. It's Dillio with his first score. A 19-yard touchdown pass. Drew Dillio, as a kid in Louisiana, slept with a Michigan quilt on his bed. He signed with the Wolverines sight unseen, except for the many times he'd seen Michigan on TV. A lifelong Michigan fan, and the sophomore from Greenwell Springs, Louisiana, on the quick hitter, finds the end zone. Denard Robinson throws for another touchdown. This time the quick shot to Drew Dillio. Michigan in control. 1:05 to go in the third, 28-3. Rack, what's the Dillio?
Well, you want to see the effect that your running quarterback has. Watch the safety again. Willie Williams right here. He's going to have his eyes in the backfield. And once again, you'll see Dilio slip behind him. He comes up for the run, wide open for the touchdown.
Proud moment for the longtime Michigan fan, Drew Dilio. From the 9, it's Corey Welch. Welch trying to work his way to the sideline. And another solid return for Welch. 25 yards to bring it out. First 3 drives, Michigan gained just 31 yards, threw a pick, and had to punt twice. The last 5, 345 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Well, not to mention here in the second half, they've had 2 of their longest drives of the season. And I think it's a direct reflection of their defense. Their defense is so much more rested. Those guys can go fly around, push around the offensive front, and now they're making some plays.
Got to figure Denard Robinson's done for the day as we near the 4th quarter. Dominic White is now in a tailback for Eastern Michigan. Junior from Detroit, and White takes it straight up the gut for a pickup of 5 on first down, 2nd and 5. Stopped by another one of those Pahokee kids, Brandon Hawthorne, junior linebacker.
You know, it's one of the things that's been surprising this afternoon is I think Eastern Michigan abandoned their running game pretty early on. You saw Alex Gillette. After about the 1st or 2nd drive, he stayed in the shotgun and did a lot more of running on his own. I know Dominique Shear is out of the ball game, but this has been one of the more potent running attacks through the first 2 games, and I think they kind of abandoned it a little bit early.
They're the only team in the nation that entered this weekend with 3 runners averaging better than 7 yards a carry. One of those was Shearer. Wyoming was the only other program with 2 runners that averaged better than 7 yards a carry. But obviously Ron English front-loaded his schedule with a couple of cupcakes, to be quite honest. Howard and Alabama State did not offer much competition. He wanted to start the season with a couple of wins before coming to the Big House. Eastern Michigan did just that.
It's the end of the 3rd quarter.
And now it's short drive over to Ann Arbor and a big step up in competition for Eastern Michigan. A great atmosphere here at the Big House in between quarters as we head to the 4th. Fleming and White are the tailbacks for Eastern Michigan. And there they go, overloading that one side. And take it straight ahead on 3rd and short for a first down for Dominic White, junior out of Orchard Lake St. Mary's High School. Just down the road in Detroit. Pickup of 3. Kenny Demmons with the stop.
It's another one of those formations that we haven't seen since that 1st quarter. They brought big number 79, Orlando McCord, in as a 6th offensive lineman. Kind of playing that, they told us that he might wear number 87 playing a tight end position, but he comes in and provides that overload formation to try to help on a short yardage situation.
Javonte Green now in at running back. Gillette swings it out to him, but incomplete. These 2 neighbors getting together for the 10th time in a series that was started way back in 1896. How close are the 2 schools? Well, can't get much closer. Rice and Houston are the closest FBS football neighbors at just over 6 miles. And from Ypsilanti to Ann Arbor, stadium to stadium, of roughly 7.5 miles. And as they play this for the 10th time, it's a great opportunity for Eastern Michigan. But Rack, their coach has made it clear they are trying to build a program under Ron English to be competitive and have success in the MAC. And so this was one of those games where you play to win, but you also may have different long-term goals than what you show here on a Saturday afternoon.
They said when they sat down and talked as a team that their #1 goal was to win the MAC conference, not to discount what they're going to do on the football field today, but what he's looking for is improvement from game 2 to 3. Hopefully his guys get better, #1, #2, and come out of this game without injuries, because at the end of the day, they need to win a MAC championship, and Michigan really doesn't factor into that. Of course, they'd love to shock the world, but obviously the card stacked up against them right now.
On 3rd and long, a draw to Dominic White, and he rumbles for an Eastern Michigan first down. JT, and that might be a rebounding Penn State team. Flag rolls in from the sideline after a 13-yard gain by Dominic White.
holding. Number 68 offense. 10-yard penalty. Repeat, first down.
Corey Neal, who's just returned to action this week with the flag.
Well, you see on this drive, they've gone back to that more prototypical running style, giving the ball to the running backs, and I think they've seen some success on this drive, of course, outside of the holding penalty. But this is why I think they abandoned their game plan a little bit, because I felt like they were controlling the line of scrimmage early on by their pro-style running game, and you're starting to see a little bit more of that here on this drive.
Fourth penalty for 40 yards against Eastern Michigan. 13 minutes to go. Ryan Brumfeld in the game at running back, and here he is with a bounce to the outside and great burst, and he carries it inside the 40. Gain of 12.
We talked about redshirt freshman Jake Ryan getting the start at outside linebacker, and it's going to be a growing process for him. He's going to make some plays, but he's also going to get you in trouble. He got outflanked on that play on the outside. That would have been his responsibility to bring the running back down in the D gap.
Brumfield again, this time hit at the line, behind the line of scrimmage. A loss of 2. Brandon Hawthorne came in to fill from his linebacker spot for the stop.
You know, we talked a little bit about Michigan last week, bringing a lot of zone pressure, obviously meaning blitz. But I think in order for them to take the next step, especially when they get into conference play, is they got to start getting pressure from the 4-man front. They shouldn't feel like they've always got to bring a linebacker or safety in order to get pressure on the opposing offense. I'd like to see the guys on the defensive side of the ball, Mike Martin, Van Bergen, get more pressure up front.
They roll the pocket. Gillette can tuck it, and he is tripped up. Great pursuit by Craig Rowe, the junior from Scottsdale, Arizona.
That's one of the things that Greg Madison talked about, is they've got juniors and seniors up front, but unfortunately they're still inexperienced when it comes to game type atmosphere. So that's what they're obviously trying to get through these first 4 games. They got to get these guys a ton of reps. They're getting a ton of reps. That's how they're going to get better, though. That defensive front providing pressure on the opposing offense.
Rowe had a great game 2 years ago against Eastern Michigan. 7 tackles in his first career interception. Jeremy Gallen stands at his 10-yard line.
Delay. Number 37 on the offense. 5-yard penalty. Still 4th down.
Ron English wants to show off Jake Roots' leg again. This guy has been killing it.
Yeah, he has been killing it, so he's obviously thinking that he gives himself another 5 yards. Give him a little bit more space to see if they can't get this one down inside the 20 to 10-yard line. And that's what we've seen from Carruth so far. He's been punting the ball outstanding.
Going to hang this one up inside the 10. Gallen takes a fair catch at the 11. Carruth has had a whale of a day kicking for Eastern Michigan. That 34-yarder down at the 11. But I'm a bit surprised that Devin Gardner isn't in the game at this point. Robinson 181 yards on the ground. He's accounted for 3 touchdowns today for Michigan. Do you think this is a field position situation?
I do. I agree with you in that. They didn't want to put Devin Gardner back into the ball game for the first time on the 12-yard line as his first snaps in the ball game. But when you're talking to the coaches yesterday, they mentioned that it would be important for them to get him some snaps in the ball game. But they're feeling like Denard's a little bit more comfortable right now backed up inside their own territory.
So Gardner still with the headset on the Michigan sideline. 2nd and 7. Shaw. Or pardon me. It's out, swung out for the completion of Jeremy Jackson. Pickup of 12.
Let's go back to Gardner just for a minute. I mean, this is an opportunity for him to come in and get some snaps. You can see his career. He's got very limited experience, but you always hear the phrase that he's just one play away from being the starting quarterback. And we've already talked about this game, the fact that Denard's taken some hits. You never want to see number 16 coming out of the ball game, but they've got to have a sense of comfort that if that happens, that Gardner can come in and lead this offense.
And Denard will keep it this time and go straight ahead. Little juke move, and he carries it toward the marker just shy of the first down. Second and short. Pickup of 11. Latarius Thomas with the stop.
He was calling the game, and he told me about it, and I just couldn't believe it. Obviously, he's got the history of having seizures, but it's good to see that he's out of the hospital, back with his team, because that's obviously where Jerry Kill wants to be.
And the Gophers follow us here in the Big Ten Network. Toussaint thrown for a loss. That will bring up third down.
Talked about their quarterback Shieldhouse. In fact, they had a lot of help coming back up front, but they've been playing really good football through the first couple of weeks.
One of the best running teams in the nation. This is Vincent Smith, and look at this guy go. And he takes it all the way up to the 45-yard line. And Denard Robinson out of the shotgun now. It's John Jansen's job to pave the way for some great running backs and quarterbacks. And here goes Vincent Smith. He cuts it back and picks up another first down. John, I'm curious, would this not be a great time to get Devin Gardner into the game for Michigan?
Oh, there's no question, and you guys already mentioned it. He's only one play away from being in. We've seen time and time again, and last year Denard wasn't able to finish a lot of the games because he was taking hits. You got to get him, the young guy, in there, get him some experience, and because at some point in this season he's going to be called upon to make some plays.
He left 10 out of 12 games last year, did Denard Robinson, due to injuries. Tate Forcier has since transferred, but he was a reliable backup. Robinson on play action, deep ball, jump ball batted away. He was looking for Roundtree. Marcel Rose and Corey Manns converge to knock it away and deny Roundtree.
Well, there was two things that when we were talking to Coach Borges as far as Denard's development, he said number one was footwork, which I think you could say that for a lot of quarterbacks. Number two was reading the defense. And the reason why I say that, he throws this one to Roundtree in double coverage, but his tight end, Kevin Coger, was wide open coming across the football field. If he starts going through his progression, he'll start seeing that, and his tight end might end up picking up just as big of a play because there's nobody there to make a tackle.
And I think you just answered the question, perhaps, of why Devin Gardner isn't in the game right now, as Denard tries to take it by himself on a designed quarterback run. And that was the question we posed to Al Borges yesterday. Denard Robinson is still learning this game. They only had 38 snaps against Western Michigan in 3 quarters. Notre Dame was obviously a shootout, and as he tries to learn the Al Borges system, you obviously learn much more during game action than you can on a Tuesday afternoon.
And Denard even told us that. He said, I know the offense, but when you talk about knowing the offense, there's a lot of the details, and it's maybe not your own stuff, it's reading the other defense in respect to the plays that you have called. And that was one of the things that Coach Borges mentioned, is that that will be the development that we will see next year, is Denard will be out there directing traffic, audibling, getting themselves into a better play.
Michigan has converted 7 of 11 third downs today. This is a deep ball, complete, and a Michigan first down. Still going is Gallen, and Gallen dropped at the 15-yard line.
So many people want to talk about the fact that Denard Robinson is a running quarterback. You get flashes, and that was one right there, that he has got himself an arm. Sits back in the pocket this time. Look, you see him going through his reads right there, and he steps into a throw. When Denard gets a chance to step into his passes, he has got a very good arm. And Jeremy Gallen, nice job of bringing that one down, making somebody miss and seeing if he can't keep that play alive.
Gallen and Jackson at the bottom of the formation. This is the 10th play of this drive. Toussaint on first down with another positive play on the ground. Nate Powell, the senior from Oceanside, California, out of Palomar Junior College with the stop. Ron English, played at Cal, and he still has a lot of California ties, and that's where he finds a lot of these junior college kids that he has turned to try to shore up that Eastern Michigan defense.
And a lot of times when you're struggling on the defensive side of the football, especially new in a program, you look to the junior college ranks because you're trying to find some guys that have already played and seen college football.
Denard Robinson is eating up clock on this drive. And he scrambles forward to set up a 3rd and short. Pickup of 3. So Denard Robinson gets one more very long possession in this game, but it will be at the cost of getting Devin Gardner in for some meaningful snaps.
You know, and I almost thought, Tom, that once they got past the 50-yard line, maybe that would have been an opportunity to get Devin Gardner in, because you mentioned they're running the football great right now. 4 minutes and 45 seconds with the clock running. You may not have what we would call meaningful snaps left for Gardner.
Timeout, Eastern Michigan. Their first charge of the half. It's a full timeout.
Gardner watching. And Denard Robinson will step away for a timeout. It's a good look at Fred's Fountain today as Michigan and Eastern Michigan do battle. Back with more football right after this. Michigan leads Eastern Michigan 28-3. 4:43 to go from the Big House. And Denard Robinson is 2 yards shy of his 11th 200-yard rushing game. 3rd and short for Michigan. Out of the eye and 2 tight ends. Play action. Robinson to the end zone. Overthrew his man. He was trying to find Brandon Moore. And that'll bring on the kicking team.
Once again, he comes out on the outside, and I feel like he was trying to guide this football in there. He sees his tight end, Brandon Moore, wide open. I'd just like to see him come back and just deliver that football. You see he's trying to put some touch on it. Couldn't quite tell if he had somebody in front of him. I didn't think so, but you just got to get your head around and deliver that football like you do everyone else. Otherwise, they end up sailing like that.
Michigan has yet to attempt a field goal this season. This will be a 21-yard attempt for Brendan Gibbons, who has nailed every extra point thus far. And it's just a tick deeper than a point after. And Gibbons fits it through. A long, drawn-out drive leaves just 4:32 on the clock here in the 4th quarter from the Big House. Michigan eats 6 minutes and 14 seconds off the clock. And they cap a 13-play drive with a field goal to up their advantage against Eastern Michigan.
I think that's been one of the most impressive things that we've seen from the ball game today, is the fact that Michigan has been able to sustain drives on offense, be able to turn those drives into points, but more importantly, keep their defense off the field, because I think this second half, the defense has played with a lot more energy because they've been fresh.
Corey Welch from the goal line. He's done a great job returning kicks today for Eastern Michigan and brings this one out to the 16. The Polaris hardest working player is Thomas Gordon for Michigan. Covered up that fumble, and this was the pick that turned the momentum in this game.
Without a doubt. I mean, that was just an outstanding play. There's a lot of wide receivers out in this country that can't make one-handed grabs like that, especially when you're covering a wide receiver, but an outstanding game there by Thomas Gordon.
So Gordon with 2 takeaways today. His namesake but no relation, Cameron Gordon, in week 1 had 2 takeaways for touchdowns, according to everybody except for the NCAA. 1st and 10. And out of the I formation, Alex Gillette will hand it off. This is Dominic White. And White picks up 3, 2nd and 7. Look who's at the bottom of that pile, number 32, Kovacs.
Yeah, and once again, they bring him down into the box. I would highly anticipate Eastern Michigan now just running the football. This is a point in a ball game when you're down 31-3. The most important thing now is you just don't want to get your team, more or less your quarterback, hurt, trying to do something that you're not accustomed to do at this point in the ball game. You don't want him dropping back in the pocket or rolling out outside. Just run the football and try to get out of this one without any major injuries.
Power running game again for White. And JT Floyd in on the stop, gain of 6. San Diego State is next on the docket for Michigan. That's Brady Hoke's former school. He spent 2 years at Montezuma Mesa. And they are in the midst of a resurgence. They're 11-4 in their last 15 games. That's the best 15-game stretch since the late 70s for San Diego State. And his former defensive coordinator, Rocky Long, took over as head coach. Michigan fans grew accustomed, if not frustrated, with the 3-3-5 defense over the last couple of years. Rocky Long will run a very aggressive 3-3-5 where they will blitz nearly every single play. And they come in with a fantastic team. It will not be easy next week here at home.
Here's the good news. The fact that Brady Hoke is going to know pretty much everything about the players and the system. But the bad news is Brady Hoke has done such a great job coaching these guys. They're a good football team, so they're going to have their hands full next week. But I think the big thing for Michigan, especially in Brady Hoke's first year, is the fact that he was able to open the season with 5 home games.
First time since the mid-70s, Michigan plays their first 5 at home. That looked like a face mask from where we stand. No flag. Ryan Brumfield had the carry, and it was Quentin Washington, third-year sophomore out of St. Stephen, South Carolina, with the stop.
Starting to see some of the second and third team defenders getting in and getting some clock. I like the decision by Brady Hoke and Greg Madison. We talked a lot about Devin Gardner coming in potentially at the quarterback position, but the same thing applies on defense with some of these younger guys. We talked about the fact there's a lot of young and inexperienced players on the Wolverines defense. Now is a chance for them to go in and go up against another jersey that you're not accustomed to seeing in practice.
Eastern Michigan on the ground again, and no gain. J.B. Fitzgerald is there. A loss of 1. Brumfield getting some extra carries today for Eastern Michigan. Great opportunity for that young man. And Eastern Michigan faces a 4th down. Drew Dillio back to return this punt.
Deep for Michigan, Drew Dillio.
Dillio, great return man in high school. Don't know if he'll have a chance on this one. It is high. He's going to roll the dice, and his dice gets stuffed. No gain. United States Marine Corps salutes today's leader of the game, and it's Michigan's quarterback Denard Robinson.
Well, I don't think this comes as a surprise to too many people, but he did an outstanding job, obviously moving the football, but also the fact that he threw that 1 interception early, and I love the way that he rebounded to have yet again another great ball game. As you can see, 293 total yards on the afternoon.
2 yards shy of 200 on the ground, and now Devin Gardner, the sophomore out of Detroit's Inkster High School, is in at quarterback. And first play, hands it off. Dussault got tripped behind the line of scrimmage. Pardon me, that's Rawls, the freshman, with his second carry. The future looks bright for this Michigan offense. And now some of these backups trying to get some snaps off before the clock runs out.
And Tom, we got a chance to see Devin Gardner in practice. You mentioned earlier in the game that Denard did not take any of the 2-minute reps and he didn't throw. I was really impressed with what I saw from him on Thursday. He's got a lot of speed, much taller quarterback, and he can really run and make some plays as well. Obviously not the same as Denard, but I think they've got a good future in Devin Gardner as well.
And there's the freshman Rawls again. Thomas Rawls picks up a couple. Michigan will continue to try to fine-tune this running game to see who is the best fit and who can be most effective. But you thought that Vincent Smith did a nice job today.
Oh, yeah, number 2, Vincent Smith. I thought he ran the football really well. We talked about him being a situational back, a guy that comes in on 3rd down, maybe catches some balls out of the backfield, really dependable in pass protection. But I think he earned some more carries this week in that running backfield.
Gardner, top dual threat quarterback coming out of Inkster. Scrambles his way for a first down. If he got it, that would stop the clock, and he'll get another play. Pickup of 7, and they will let it run. Denard Robinson, 2 yards shy of his 11th 200-yard rushing game, as Ron English brings Eastern Michigan back for game 10 of this series. Michigan wins it 31-3. Brady Hoke, now just the 3rd coach in Michigan history to start his career at 3-0.